Most people spend their lives chasing money, but never stop to ask what it's really buying them. They wake up early, grind hard, and call it success, yet deep down, they're running out of the one thing money can't replace: time. That quiet truth sits at the heart of Financial Freedom by Grant Sabatier, a book about earning more than wealth, earning your life back. Because this isn't just a guide to money, it's a mirror, and once you see what it reflects, you'll never look at work, time, or freedom the same way again. Let's step inside that realization. Chapter 1. Money is Freedom. It started with $2.26. That's all Grant Sabatier had to his name, the kind of number that doesn't even buy lunch. He was 24, living with his parents, sleeping under the same roof he grew up in, and quietly wondering if this was how adulthood was supposed to feel. He'd done everything he was told, went to college, got a job, worked hard, but somewhere between the late nights and the polite paychecks, something broke. The system that promised security had quietly stolen his time and left him broke, anxious, and painfully replaceable. Most people would have called it rock bottom. Grant called it a wake-up call. One hot summer afternoon, sitting on his parents' front porch, he looked at his empty bank account and felt something shift inside him. Not the dramatic movie kind of moment, more like a quiet rebellion, a whisper saying, "This can't be it. There has to be another way." That whisper became a question. What if freedom wasn't something you waited for, but something you built? For the next 5 years, he chased that question like his life depended on it. And in a way, it did. He taught himself everything: how to make money online, how to invest, how to negotiate, how to see opportunities where others saw risk. He worked mornings, nights, weekends. He wasn't chasing a bigger paycheck. He was chasing control over his own time. By the time he was 30, Grant's net worth had crossed $1 million. But the money wasn't the real story. The real story was what the money gave him: silence, space, freedom to wake up without an alarm clock, freedom to walk away from any meeting that drained his soul, freedom to say no. That's what financial freedom really means, not the number in your account, but the absence of fear in your life. Because here's the truth: nobody tells you when you're young, money is never just about money. It's about time. It's about choice. It's about waking up one day and realizing you own every hour that used to own you. Think about it. Most of us trade time for money like it's the only currency that exists. We wake up early, sit in traffic, scroll through endless spreadsheets, and call it stability. But that stability often costs us the one thing we can't buy back: our time. Grant learned the hard way that saving your life for someday is the most expensive habit of all. Because someday is a myth, a promise the world keeps making and never delivers. He began to see money differently, not as a reward for hard work, but as a tool for freedom. A tool that, if used right, could buy back time, peace, and purpose. He didn't want to be rich just to be rich. He wanted to be free enough to feel alive again. That's the irony of our generation. We're drowning in opportunities but starving for purpose. We know how to make a living, but not how to live. Financial freedom isn't about retiring early or owning 10 rental properties. It's about designing a life where work becomes optional, where you work because you want to, not because you have to. And that begins with one simple truth: money is not the goal. Freedom is. When you start seeing money as freedom, everything changes. You stop spending to impress people and start spending to express yourself. You stop chasing promotions that drain you and start creating work that fulfills you. You stop waiting for permission to rest and start living like your time is worth something, because it is. Grant called it the 7 levels of financial freedom. But it's not really about levels or milestones. It's about reclaiming your life, one choice at a time. First comes clarity, knowing where you stand. Then comes self-sufficiency, earning enough to stand on your own. Then comes breathing room, the space to pause without panic. And beyond all of it lies something deeper: the realization that money is only useful when it buys you more life. That's the paradox of wealth. The moment you stop chasing it for its own sake, you finally start to understand it. Because money doesn't change who you are, it just amplifies what's already there. And if you're not free inside, no amount of money will set you free outside. So maybe the real question isn't, how much do you want to earn? Maybe it's, How much freedom do you want to feel? That's where Grant's journey begins, and where ours might, too. Chapter 2. Time is more valuable than money. There's a quiet kind of tragedy that plays out every weekday morning. Millions of people step into cars, trains, and buses, heading to jobs they don't love, not because they want to, but because they have to. And they trade the best hours of their lives for money they rarely get to enjoy. Grant Sabatier realized this the moment his bank account started growing. He had the money he once dreamed of, but something still didn't feel right. He'd escaped the 9-to-5, but not the mindset that built it. See, the real shift in his journey wasn't when he hit $1 million. It was when he understood that time, not money, was the real currency of life. Money can be replaced. Time can't. You can always earn another dollar, but you can't earn another Tuesday morning or another dinner with someone you love. We're told to chase money so we can one day buy our time back after retirement, after success, after the kids are grown. But most people never make it that far. They keep waiting for the day they can live, and by the time they can, they're too tired to. Grant began asking a dangerous question. What if freedom wasn't something you waited for, but something you designed right now? It's a question that doesn't sit well in a world obsessed with hustle, because it flips everything we've been taught. Maybe it's not about earning more, but about needing less. Maybe the richest people aren't the ones with the biggest portfolios, but the ones with the most control over their time. One of Grant's friends, Travis, had spent 20 years in corporate America. He'd done everything right, saved 10% of his income, maxed out his 401k, waited for promotions. When Grant asked him when he'd finally retire, Travis laughed. At this rate? Maybe when I'm 70. That hit Grant hard. 70. 70 years old before you can wake up and do whatever you want. By then, your back aches, your knees click, and your dreams have already gone stale. So he made a promise to himself. Never again would he trade his best years for someday. And that's when he discovered the power of compounding, not just in money, but in life. Investing early doesn't just grow wealth, it multiplies freedom. Every dollar saved in your 20s buys hours, days, even years of time later. Every impulsive expense? That's not just $100 gone, it's a weekend of freedom sold. Inflation eats away at your money, but distractions eat away at your time, and most of us don't even notice until it's gone. Grant saw how people measure life in paychecks and possessions, but not in moments. They upgrade cars but forget to upgrade peace. They chase raises but ignore the cost of their hours, and they call that success. But what's the point of a high salary if it demands your soul in return? He started to measure everything differently, not in dollars but in hours of life. Before buying anything, he'd ask, how much of my time is this worth? That $300 jacket, maybe 10 hours of your life. That $40,000 car, maybe 3 years of it. And the math starts to sting when you realize how much of your life you've traded away just to keep up. We live in a culture that glorifies being busy. But busy isn't the same as productive. Busy is a form of escape from reflection, from meaning, from asking what actually matters. Because once you ask that, you might realize the truth. You don't need more money. You need more time to breathe, to be with people who make you forget to check your phone, to wake up without rushing, to walk without purpose, to feel like your life belongs to you again. And ironically, the fastest way to buy that time is to stop wasting it chasing things that don't matter. So Grant flipped the script. Instead of trying to cut every expense, he focused on making more money not to live bigger, but to live freer. He treated income not as a way to buy stuff, but as a way to buy back time. He started to see life in years, not decades. Every year of focus, every smart financial move that was another year, shaved off the countdown to freedom. Because when you value time above money, you stop waiting to be alive. And maybe that's the quiet revolution this generation needs, not just to earn more, but to feel more. To remember that money can buy comfort, but only time can buy meaning. So the next time you say, I don't have time, think again. Because time isn't something you have, it's something you spend. And how you spend it tells the truth about what you really value. Money can make life easier, But time makes life beautiful. Chapter 3. What is your number? There's a strange comfort in not knowing. When you don't know what you're working toward, you can tell yourself the story that you're doing your best. You work, you save a little, you hope it'll be enough. But enough for what? Grant Sabatier used to live that way, chasing vague goals, hoping his future would somehow take care of itself. But then he realized something brutally simple. You can't reach financial freedom if you don't even know where it is. That's when he came up with the idea of your number. It sounds clinical at first, a formula, a target, a spreadsheet exercise. But it's not. Your number is the price of your freedom. It's the amount of money that lets you wake up one day and decide exactly what to do with your time. And here's the surprising part. Your number is probably a lot smaller than you think. We tend to imagine freedom as something reserved for the ultra-rich. A mansion, a yacht, early retirement in Bali. But when you really define what you want, not what society tells you to want, the math changes. It turns out most of us don't want a yacht. We want mornings without alarms. We don't want luxury, we want peace. Grant started by tracking his life down to the cent. Every expense, every habit, not because he loved numbers, but because clarity is freedom. He realized his ideal life didn't cost millions. It just required intentionality, spending on what mattered, cutting what didn't, and investing the rest in his future. The first step was brutally honest reflection. How much does your life really cost? Your rent, your coffee, your weekend splurges, not what you should spend, but what you actually do. Because your number isn't fantasy math. It's the mirror version of your real life. Once you know that, you multiply it roughly 25 times your annual expenses. That's the classic financial independence number. It's what you need to live off your investments indefinitely. But the truth is, your number isn't static. It shifts with your priorities. It grows when your dreams do. If you decide you want to move to the mountains and live simply, your number shrinks. If you want to travel the world or build a company, it expands. And that's the beauty of it. Your number isn't just a target, it's a compass. Money, after all, is just energy. And your number is how much energy you need to sustain the life that lights you up. Grant used to think saving was about sacrifice. But once he defined his number, saving became motivation. Every dollar wasn't lost to the bank, it was buying time. Buying days of freedom, buying years of peace. You start to see your spending differently when every purchase has a life price tag. That $200 night out? Maybe it cost you 2 days of freedom later. That $20 lunch every afternoon? Maybe it delays your escape by a year. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's when frugality stops feeling restrictive. It starts feeling powerful. Because you're not depriving yourself, you're investing in yourself. Your number becomes a mirror for your values. If you say you want freedom but spend like a prisoner of trends, the math doesn't lie. Your bank statement becomes a reflection of your priorities. Grant often said, "You don't need more money, you need more clarity." When you know your number, every choice becomes simpler. You stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "Does this move me closer to freedom or farther away?" The point isn't to live small. It's to live on purpose, to decide how much is enough and then stop running after more. Because more is a trap. More stuff, more upgrades, more chasing. You'll never catch it. Freedom doesn't come from endless growth. It comes from alignment. When your money supports your values, life finally feels like it fits. Maybe your number is $1 million. Maybe it's 500,000. Maybe it's just enough to cover a small life that feels whole. Whatever it is, it's not about the digits, it's about direction. Because once you know your number, every day becomes a countdown, not to death or debt, but to freedom. Every saved dollar is a step. Every smart investment is a key turning in the lock. That's how you stop drifting through life and start walking with intention. So the question isn't, how much do I need? It's, what kind of life do I want badly enough to build? And that's the first time money stops being math and starts being meaning. Chapter 4. Where are you now? Before you can build freedom, you have to face the truth. Not the motivational post kind of truth, the quiet, uncomfortable kind. the one that lives in your bank balance, your debts, your habits. Grant Sabatier calls this the mirror moment, the day you stop pretending and finally look your money in the eye. He remembers sitting at his laptop years ago, coffee gone cold beside him, spreadsheet open, heart racing. He wasn't afraid of math. He was afraid of what it might say about his life. He added up his assets, a few $100s here, a laptop, some leftover furniture. Then his liabilities, student loans, credit cards, a car payment that suddenly felt heavier than metal. The result? Negative net worth. He owed more than he owned, and for a minute, he just stared at it. That red number on the screen wasn't judgment. It was honesty. And weirdly, honesty felt lighter than denial. That's what most people miss. Clarity isn't punishment. It's permission to stop running blind and start steering your life. So he built a habit around it. Every week, he'd open his financial dashboard, not to criticize himself, but to stay conscious. Because awareness is wealth. If you want to change your life, you have to know where your money sleeps at night. Net worth, it's the simplest measure of progress most people never track. It's your entire financial story written in one number. What you own minus what you owe. Your assets, the savings account you forget about. The stocks you bought 2 years ago. The laptop that still works. Even your car. Your liabilities, the student loans, the mortgage, the unpaid balance on that card you swear you'll handle next month. Subtract one from the other, and you've got your truth. Grant used to think success was about income. But the real scorecard wasn't how much he earned, it was how much he kept. That shift changed everything. He stopped chasing promotions and started building margin, that quiet space between what you make and what you spend. Because margin is where freedom grows. There's power in numbers, but there's also emotion. Money triggers shame, pride, fear, sometimes all in the same minute. That's why most people avoid facing it. But the more you look, the less it scares you. Grant calls it emotional control over money, the ability to stay calm when the market drops, to not panic when things go wrong. Because financial freedom isn't just an equation, it's an emotional skill. If you can stay centered when your portfolio dips or when bills stack up, you've already won half the battle. He learned to treat every setback like data, not drama. Every overdraft, every bad purchase a lesson, not a failure. Then came the daily habit. 5 minutes a day with his money. No spreadsheets, no guilt. Just checking balances, tracking progress, remembering what every dollar was doing for him. It sounds small, but it's transformative. Because 5 minutes a day turns money from a mystery into a relationship. And relationships thrive on attention. He realized wealth wasn't built in massive leaps. It was built in tiny, repeated acts of awareness. Checking your spending before it spirals. Paying a bill early instead of late. Moving that extra $100 into savings instead of scrolling Amazon. Each one is microscopic. Together, they're monumental. That's why Grant says the first step to freedom isn't making more money. It's understanding the money you already have. Knowing where you stand lets you know where to go. If your net worth is negative, fine. You're not behind, you're just at the start. If you're buried in debt, fine. You're not broken, you're just learning to dig your way out with strategy instead of shame. He used to check his net worth monthly. At first, it hurt. Then, it became addictive because progress, no matter how small, feels like power. Watching debt shrink, savings grow. Credit scores climb. That's when freedom stops being a fantasy and starts being a process. And that process is what most people skip. They want results without reflection. They want wealth without awareness. But awareness is the gate. You can't fix what you won't face. So, where are you now? If you wrote down every dollar you own and every dollar you owe, would you even recognize the person behind those numbers? Because money doesn't just show what you have. It shows what you value. And once you know where you stand, you can start to move, not randomly, but deliberately. That's the quiet power of clarity. It doesn't just expose you, it expands you. It's the moment your financial life stops being a fog and starts being a map. And for the first time, you can finally see where freedom begins. Chapter 5. Next, level money. There's a point in every journey where the rules that got you started stop working. You've cut expenses, tracked your spending, built your savings habit, and still, something feels stuck. You're surviving, but not accelerating. And that's when Grant Sabatier learned the real secret of wealth. You can't save your way to freedom. You have to build your way there. Most people never cross that line because they treat money like a defense game. They cut, they reduce, they avoid risk. But freedom isn't built by hiding from money. It's built by learning how to make it multiply. Grant calls this phase next level money. It's where you stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like an architect. He broke it down into 3 simple variables: income, savings, and expenses. You can only play with these 3 levers, but how you pull them determines everything. Most people obsess over expenses because it's the easiest to control. You can skip a coffee, delay a trip, cancel a subscription, but you can't shrink your way to abundance. Cutting expenses has a limit. Making money doesn't. That realization hit him one night when he was staring at his spreadsheet again, the same one that once made him anxious. He had finally gotten good at saving. His savings rate was over 30%. But the numbers showed a brutal truth. Even at that rate, real wealth would still take decades. Décades. And that's when something in him snapped. He didn't want to wait for freedom. He wanted to accelerate it. So he shifted focus from saving more to earning faster. He started learning high-value skills, digital marketing, SEO, web design, anything that created leverage. And once he had leverage, everything changed. He stopped thinking like a worker and started acting like a business. That's the essence of next-level money. Stop trading time for cash. Start trading value for freedom. Because time is limited, but value, infinite. Grant realized there were 4 engines that drove wealth faster than anything else: full-time work, side hustles, entrepreneurship, and investing. His job gave him structure and benefits. That was the foundation. But his side hustles? That was the ignition. Every extra dollar he earned from freelance gigs went straight into investments, not lifestyle upgrades. He didn't spend it. He weaponized it. Each new income stream shortened his timeline to freedom. And slowly, he began to see the pattern. Every dollar earned outside your job buys time off your future job. It's not about being busy. It's about being strategic. He used to see money as linear work. Earn, save. But now it felt exponential. Learn, earn, reinvest. It's a game of momentum. And once you catch it, it's hard to stop. Next level money isn't about greed. It's about speed. It's the understanding that wealth doesn't grow from deprivation, but from expansion. When your income grows faster than your expenses, every year compounds not just your money, but your options. That's why he tracked not only dollars, but rates. His savings rate, his income growth rate, his return on investments. Because what you measure grows. If you save 10%, you'll reach financial independence in about 50 years. Save 50%, and it drops to 17. Save 70%, and it's less than 10. That's not theory, that's math. And the math of freedom rewards those who move fast and think long. Grant called this his freedom equation. More income plus more savings, fewer expenses equals more years of life bought back. But the deeper truth was emotional. As his wealth grew, his anxiety shrank. Not because he was rich, but because he was in control. Control, that's the real definition of financial independence. Not retiring early or quitting your job, but knowing you can. Next level money isn't about making millions. It's about reaching the point where you never feel trapped again. Because when you no longer depend on a paycheck to survive, every decision in life becomes lighter. You speak differently, you think differently. You stop saying, "I can't afford that," and start saying, "I choose not to." That's freedom in its purest form. Grant used to joke that building wealth is like climbing stairs. At first, it's slow and painful, but eventually, the stairs turn into an escalator. Your money starts moving on its own. The question is, will you still be standing at the bottom, counting your steps, or will you take the leap and build the machine? Because wealth, real wealth, doesn't reward the cautious, it rewards the courageous. Those who stop asking, can I afford it? And start asking, how can I create it? That's the shift. From saver to strategist. From worker to owner. From time-rich poor to financially free. And once you cross that line, you'll never look at money or time the same way again. Chapter 6. Is it worth it? At some point in the chase for freedom, you have to pause and ask the one question money can't answer for you. Is it worth it? Grant Sabatier learned that question late somewhere between his growing wealth and his shrinking weekends. He was working more, earning more, saving faster, and somehow feeling less alive. He'd optimized everything except joy. That's when he started noticing the quiet cost behind every purchase, every hustle, every decision. Not just in dollars and time, in attention, in peace. He realized that every financial choice carries an invisible price tag. Hours of your life. That cup of coffee? Maybe 10 minutes of work. That new car? Maybe 2 years of freedom? That dream house that everyone tells you to buy? Maybe a lifetime of debt, a golden cage that just happens to have good lighting. The real cost of anything isn't what it says on the receipt. It's how much life you trade to earn it. Once you start seeing through that lens, everything changes. He began calculating his real hourly rate, not what he was paid, but what he actually earned after subtracting the hours spent commuting, emailing, decompressing, thinking about work, or recovering from it. Suddenly, that salary that looked impressive on paper shrank fast. The math was sobering and freeing because it showed him something most people never see: how much life we quietly sell for the illusion of stability. So he started asking himself a new question before buying anything. How much of my freedom is this worth? And that question alone saved him more money than any budgeting app ever could. But it wasn't just about buying less, it was about valuing more. Because money decisions are never just financial, they're emotional. They reflect what you believe will make you feel whole. The problem is, most of us buy things to fill space that only meaning can fill. Grant realized he didn't actually want half the things he once worked for. He wanted what he thought they represented: comfort, belonging, proof that he'd made it. But those feelings can't be bought. They have to be earned through alignment, not accumulation. He began replacing the question, "Can I afford it?" with, "Does it add value to my life?" And surprisingly, most things didn't. That's the trap of modern success. It's so easy to mistake consumption for progress. You buy more because you've earned more, but soon, the things you own start owning you. The house needs maintenance. The car needs insurance. The lifestyle needs constant feeding. And before you know it, you're working not to live, but to sustain your own spending. Freedom turns into upkeep. Grant saw this happening all around him. People who made 6 figures but felt broke inside. They didn't lack money. They lacked meaning. So he created what he called his worth filter, a personal checklist he ran through before every big decision. 1. Does this make me happier or just busier? 2. Am I buying this to feel better or to be better? 3. If no one saw this purchase, would I still want it? 4. Is this moving me closer to freedom or farther from it? If it didn't pass that filter, he didn't buy it. That small shift didn't just save him money, it gave him mental clarity. He stopped feeling like life was a transaction and started treating it like a design. Because once you redefine worth, your entire economy changes. You stop seeing your paycheck as permission to spend and start seeing it as power to choose. You stop confusing busy with productive. You stop filling silence with noise and start finding peace in enough. Grant realized that freedom wasn't about owning more. It was about needing less. When you stop needing everything, every choice becomes lighter. And that's when he understood something almost everyone misses. Every dollar has an emotional echo. Spend it consciously, and it buys energy. Spend it unconsciously, and it drains it. Most people think they're buying things, but they're really buying feelings. And if you're not aware of what you're feeling, you'll keep spending to chase something you already have. So the next time you reach for your wallet, pause. Ask yourself, is this a purchase or a trade? Because what you trade for money is your time, and what you trade for time is your life. In the end, it's not about how much you own, It's about how much life you still have left to own yourself. Because wealth without awareness isn't freedom, it's just a prettier form of captivity. And once you see that, you'll start to understand what Grant did. Not every opportunity is worth the cost. Not every dollar is worth the hour. And not every dream is worth the debt. Sometimes, the richest moment you'll ever have is the one when you choose peace over purchase. Chapter 7. The only budget you'll ever need. Grant Sabatier used to hate the word budget. It sounded like a diet for money, all guilt, no joy. And, like most diets, it worked for a while, until it didn't. He'd try to track every expense, every receipt, every coffee. And the more disciplined he became, the more trapped he felt. Because the problem wasn't how he spent it, was how he thought about spending. That's when he tore up the spreadsheets and asked a simple question. What if freedom doesn't come from tracking every dollar, but from mastering the few that really matter? Most people obsess over cutting small costs, skipping lattes, avoiding takeout, but those aren't the expenses keeping them broke. It's the big three: housing, transportation, and food. That's it. If you can control those three, you can build wealth, even if the rest of your life is messy. Grant called this the real budget. Not a spreadsheet, not a rule book, just focus. Because money isn't about micromanagement, it's about direction. He looked at the data. The average American family spends more than 60% of their income on those three things, which means if you can reduce them even slightly, you free up more cash than skipping 1,000 cups of coffee ever could. So he started with housing. It was his biggest cost, almost a third of his income. He moved into a smaller apartment, closer to work. The walls were thinner, but the savings were thicker. That one move alone saved him $25,000 a year. Suddenly, he didn't need a budget. His life was the budget. Next, transportation. He realized he was spending thousands just to sit in traffic. So he sold his car. He biked, walked, used public transit. Sometimes it was inconvenient. But every inconvenience came with a new kind of power, the power to choose where his money went. Then food. The daily drip of invisible spending. He started cooking at home, not because it was frugal, but because it was freeing. Cooking became a ritual of control, a way to say, this is my life, and I decide how it's built. And here's the funny part. Once he simplified those three, everything else followed naturally. He didn't need to restrict small joys. He could buy coffee without guilt, go out occasionally, treat himself because the foundation was solid. That's the secret. Real budgeting isn't restriction. It's alignment. When your big expenses reflect your priorities, the small ones don't matter. When your rent, your commute, and your meals support your version of freedom, every other choice becomes lighter. Grant realized that financial peace doesn't come from counting dollars. It comes from counting decisions that matter. He started calling it the freedom margin, the gap between what you earn and what you need. Every dollar in that gap is a slice of your future. And the bigger your margin, the freer your future. He used that margin to invest, to save, to experiment. And soon, his life started expanding, not in luxury, but in latitude. That's what people miss when they hear budget. They imagine rules and limits. But a real budget isn't a cage, it's a compass. It points you toward the life you actually want to live. When you understand where your money goes, you stop drifting. You start directing. That's why Grant said, don't track every dollar, track every decision. Because every financial decision is an emotional one. Every expense tells you who you're becoming. Most people budget to control their money. But freedom begins when you use your budget to control your time. Once Grant reframed it that way, he noticed how many people were budgeting to survive instead of budgeting to escape. Their budgets were designed to endure life, not design it. He wanted the opposite, a plan that would make his money work for him, not chain him to routines that kept him small. So he built a life budget. Instead of asking, how do I cut back? He asked, how do I design a life I don't need to escape from? He chose a cheaper apartment because he wanted more peace, not just more savings. He stopped driving not to save gas, but to gain time. He started cooking not for thrift, but for presence. Every number had a reason. Every decision had a feeling. That's how money becomes emotional intelligence, not a ledger, but a mirror. And once you start living that way, you realize something powerful. Freedom doesn't come from budgeting harder. It comes from wanting less and choosing better. When your life costs less than you make, you stop working for survival and start working for purpose. You start building a future where enough isn't a finish line. It's a feeling you live with every day. So no, you don't need another complicated budget. You don't need another app or another formula. You just need one simple rule. Make your biggest expenses align with your biggest values and let the rest take care of itself. That's not just a budget. That's liberation on paper. Because at the end of the day, money should make life simpler, not smaller. And the best budget isn't the one that limits your freedom, it's the one that creates it. Chapter 8. Hack your 9-to-5. It's funny how we spend years preparing for jobs that were never designed to make us free. You graduate, hustle, climb, impress, and before you know it, your job becomes your identity. But here's the twist Grant Sabatier discovered. Your 9-to-5 isn't the enemy of financial freedom. It can actually be the launch pad. For most people, work feels like a transaction hours for dollars. But Grant started to see it as leverage. A job isn't just a paycheck, it's a toolkit. It's your first investor, your training ground, your access to skills you can later monetize on your own terms. Once you see it that way, everything changes. You stop resenting your job and start hacking it. He began with the hidden money most people never touch: benefits, health insurance, 401k, matching reimbursements, learning credits, things we ignore because they feel boring. But boring is where wealth hides. Grant maxed his 401k match, used company insurance to free up personal income, and even negotiated for career development funds. That small shift, treating his job like a business, saved him thousands every year. He wasn't just earning, he was extracting value from every inch of that paycheck. Then came the next hack: negotiation. Most people wait years for raises, hoping their boss will notice. But the market doesn't reward patience, it rewards data. Grant researched salaries, tracked his contributions, and built a simple case. Here's what I deliver. Here's what the market pays. Then he asked clearly, directly, confidently. He got the raise. Not because he was lucky, but because he stopped asking for permission to be valued. That's the thing about corporate life. The rules are negotiable if you're brave enough to ask. He learned to ask for remote work, for flexibility, for project autonomy. Each yes wasn't just convenience, it was a wealth multiplier. Because time saved is money earned. He once said, the most powerful word in your career is not yes, it's actually. Actually, I'd prefer Friday's remote. Actually, I'd like to lead this initiative. Actually, my market rate is higher. Each actually reclaimed a piece of his freedom inside a system built to consume it. And here's the irony: the better he got at hacking his 9-to-5, the less he needed it. He started viewing every skill he learned as a portable asset. Every presentation, every email, every project, practice for his future life as an entrepreneur. He wasn't just doing work, he was studying work. Understanding how teams operate, how products scale, how people think, because that's what a job really is. Paid education, if you're paying attention. Grant realized something most people never see: the office is a free incubator for your next chapter. You're surrounded by systems, mentors, inefficiencies waiting to be solved, and every one of those is a potential business idea. He started helping colleagues optimize their websites, market-side projects, grow small brands. Each little gig became a test run for what would later become millennial money. That's the quiet secret of freedom. You don't need to quit your job to start building it. You just need to stop wasting your job. The 9-to-5 isn't a prison. It's a portal if you use it right. Grant's advice was simple: leverage your job until your job funds your freedom. Use it to build skills, connections, and savings that buy you time. The truth is, you don't need to love your job. You just need to make it useful. That's the mindset shift that changed everything. Instead of asking, "How long until I can quit?" he asked, "How can I make this job buy me freedom faster?" He started quantifying every raise, every new skill, Every benefit not in dollars, but in months of life earned back. A $10,000 raise wasn't just money. It was another 6 months off the countdown clock to independence. That's how you hack a 9-to-5. You turn it into a machine that funds your escape plan. And slowly, freedom stops being a fantasy. It becomes a math problem, one you can actually solve. The irony? Once you reach the point where you can quit, you often don't feel the need to, because the job that once controlled you now serves you. That's real power. When you're not working for your job is working for you. Grant used to say, "A paycheck can be a cage or it can be a catapult. The difference is whether you build a wall or a ramp." Most people build walls. They inflate their lifestyle every time they earn more. He built ramps. Every extra dollar went to savings, side hustles, and investments. He didn't see promotions as rewards. He saw them as rocket fuel. Every raise shortened the distance between where he was and where he wanted to be. Because the 9-to-5, when hacked properly, isn't your obstacle to freedom. It's your funding round. So the question isn't whether you should leave your job. It's whether you're using it or letting it use you. Because one day, you'll look back and realize your cubicle was just a classroom. Your paycheck was your seed money. And your time there wasn't wasted, it was invested. And that's when you know you've won the game. Not because you escaped the system, but because you learned how to bend it. Chapter 9. More money in less time. Grant Sabatier used to think time and money were opposites. You spent one to earn the other. But once he reached financial independence, he realized something deeper. The game wasn't about trading time for money anymore. It was about compressing time, making money faster, smarter, and with purpose. That's when he discovered the art of the side hustle. It started small, a few freelance projects after hours, building websites for friends, helping small businesses with SEO. But the moment that first client paid him, something clicked. He didn't just earn money. He earned proof that income didn't have to come from one place. That single moment making a dollar outside your job changes your brain forever. Because once you realize you can create money on your own terms, the illusion of dependence disappears. Grant saw side hustling not as extra work, but as time travel. Every dollar earned outside his 9-to-5 shaved months off his journey to freedom. He loved telling the story of Matt, a Chicago graphic designer who made $55,000 a year, nothing special, just a steady paycheck. But on weekends, he walked dogs. He started small, then hired help, then scaled. Within a few years, that side hustle made him $200,000 a year, 4 times his day job. Matt didn't have connections. He had momentum. That's the magic of side hustles. They start as small bets on yourself, but they compound into something far bigger. Grant treated his like experiments. Some failed, some flopped completely. But everyone taught him something about the market, about people, about himself. He learned that success doesn't come from finding the perfect idea. It comes from finding the courage to start imperfectly. And when you start stacking multiple income streams, something powerful happens. Time starts bending. Because when your money no longer depends on a single employer, you stop living in survival mode. You start thinking long-term, creatively. You can say no to work that drains you and yes to projects that light you up. That's when money stops being a leash and starts becoming leverage. He used to spend his evenings building side businesses that didn't even exist on paper, just ideas, half-formed websites, little tests. And every time one of them made a sale, no matter how small, he felt a jolt of freedom, because every new income stream is a vote for independence. But here's what most people get wrong. A side hustle isn't about working more. It's about working smarter. It's not about burnout, it's about balance. You start by reclaiming wasted time. Those hours lost to scrolling, Netflix, procrastination, that's the raw material of freedom. You don't need 10 extra hours a day. You just need to reclaim 2. Grant mapped out his time like a scientist. Mornings before work, deep focus. Evenings, creative output. Weekends, scale and reflection. He didn't live to hustle, he hustled to live free. And when burnout crept in, he reminded himself, this is temporary work for a permanent result. Because the goal was never to hustle forever. The goal was to hustle until time was yours again. Side hustles became his second education. He learned negotiation by dealing with clients, marketing by promoting himself, leadership by hiring freelancers. Each project became another tool in his financial toolkit, each lesson another layer of leverage. That's why Grant said, "Don't start a side hustle to make money. Start it to learn how to make choices." Because the ultimate reward isn't the extra income, it's the identity shift. You stop seeing yourself as an employee and start seeing yourself as a creator. And that shift is what builds empires. He realized that the richest people in the world all shared one trait. They didn't depend on a single stream of income. They built ecosystems where every project, every product, every investment fed the next one. That's what he started doing. He reinvested his side hustle income into his website, into stocks, into new experiments. Soon, those experiments were making more than his job. And one day, he woke up and realized something wild. He didn't need to go to work anymore. But here's the twist: he still did. For a while. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to finish on his own terms. That's the difference between freedom and escape. Freedom is when you can leave and still choose to stay. The more money he made, the less urgency he felt to chase it. Because side hustling had already done its real job, it rewired his sense of possibility. He started seeing opportunity everywhere. A problem, a potential business, a hobby, a hidden skill, a frustration, a market gap. And that's when he said it best. The moment you stop waiting for permission to make money, you start printing time. That's what this chapter is really about. Not side hustles, but agency. When you realize you can design your own economy, life stops feeling like a paycheck cycle. It starts feeling like a creative act. You stop asking, "What can I afford?" and start asking, "What can I build?" Because wealth isn't about how much you make, it's about how fast you can buy your freedom back. So if you're sitting there thinking you're too busy to start, remember this: every empire began as someone's side hustle after work. And the fastest path to financial independence isn't luck, inheritance, or genius. It's stacking your hours today so tomorrow belongs entirely to you. That's not hustle culture. That's time liberation. Chapter 10. Living a richer life. The funny thing about chasing financial freedom is that when you finally catch it, you realize it was never about money. Grant Sabatier woke up one morning, no boss, no alarm, no deadlines, and felt something he hadn't expected: emptiness. For years, he'd been running on purpose, building, investing, optimizing. Every decision pointed toward one goal: freedom. But once he reached it, there was silence. No next milestone, no finish line applause, just space. That's when it hit him. Financial freedom wasn't the end of the journey. It was the beginning. Money had bought him time, but now time demanded meaning. He started asking deeper questions. If I can do anything with my life, what's actually worth doing? If I can go anywhere, what feels like home? If I can stop working, what kind of work still matters? Those are the questions most people never get to ask because they're too busy surviving. But when you reach freedom, survival ends and self-discovery begins. Grant began seeing wealth differently, not as accumulation, but as alignment. He realized true wealth wasn't in his bank account. It was in his mornings, slow, quiet, intentional. In his health, the ability to run, to breathe, to wake up rested. In his relationships, unhurried conversations with people who made him laugh until he forgot about productivity. Money had simply cleared the noise so he could finally hear what mattered. He used to think wealth was about having more. Now, it was about feeling enough. Because the richest life isn't the one with the most possessions, it's the one where you can't think of a single thing you'd trade for peace. And ironically, that's when money becomes fun again. When it's not about survival, you can use it to design experiences, not escape from them. You spend not to prove anything, but to feel something. Grant started traveling not to check off countries, but to live inside moments. A sunrise in Lisbon, a quiet meal with strangers in Tokyo. And each time, he felt something priceless: time expanding. That's what freedom does. It slows life down enough to notice it. He began to measure wealth not in net worth, but in presence. How many mornings he woke up unhurried. How many nights he went to bed proud. How many days he didn't check his phone first thing. Those small things, the things that never appear on financial dashboards, became his truest form of ROI. Because money can buy you comfort, but only awareness can buy you peace. And that's where most people miss the point. They think freedom is about retiring early. It's not. It's about becoming fully alive now, even while you're still building. You don't need $1 million to live richly. You need to stop waiting for permission to live. Grant once said, "You can't put a price on waking up and realizing the day ahead is entirely yours." That's the moment he knew he'd made it. Not because of his investments, but because of his autonomy. True financial freedom isn't just the ability to quit your job. It's the ability to say no without fear, yes without hesitation, and enough without guilt. It's realizing that wealth was never the goal. It was the vehicle to a more conscious life. When he looked back, every stage, the debt, the side hustles, the spreadsheets, the saving, was never about the money. It was about reclaiming time. And time, once reclaimed, becomes the canvas for everything that matters. That's why the journey to financial freedom isn't about getting rich. It's about getting real. Real with yourself. Real with your values. Real with what actually makes you feel alive. Because here's the final paradox. The moment you stop chasing money, it starts flowing easier. Not because you're lucky, but because you're finally aligned. You start working from joy, not fear. You spend from clarity, not impulse. You invest not just for returns, but for meaning. And that's when life stops being a race and becomes a rhythm. Grant learned that the true measure of wealth isn't how much you earn after you stop working. It's how much peace you feel while you're working less. Money built his freedom, but gratitude built his happiness. And if you take away one thing from his story, let it be this. Money can buy you time, but only you can decide what that time is worth. So live richly, not in things, but in moments, not in income, but in impact, not in status, but in peace. Because the richest people aren't the ones who have everything. They're the ones who need nothing and finally have time to feel it. And maybe that's where your own path begins. Not with the question, how do I get more? But with the whisper, what's already enough? That's the real freedom Grant found. And it's waiting for all of us, the moment we stop chasing money and start living a richer life. So tell me, what does your richer life look like? If this audiobook made you stop for a second, if it reminded you that freedom isn't far away, just hidden behind small choices, drop your thoughts below. Share what enough means to you. And if this video lit something up in you, that quiet spark of possibility, subscribe this channel and stay with us. Because here, we don't chase money. We build freedom. We learn how to make time ours again. One story, one decision, one day at a time.